I can control everything that happens in our home. Megan and I, we can control that. We can control what food comes in, and we can control what our kids eat. The better we do in our household, the better we can do whenever it comes to the outside influences. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Doc Jacque Show. This is episode 10. This is how to feed your kids. So this is a topic that's, honestly, I get this all the time because I work with a lot of infertility patients. We get people pregnant, and then after pregnancy, they're like, well, what the heck do I do with my kid? How do I get my kid to eat healthy? It's a question, I probably get that question more than anything else, especially since we've had the two of ours. Now, when it comes to our family, we're definitely going to be a little bit more strict, or a lot bit more strict with what we feed our kids. Why? Well, when Hoyt was born, right, we had all kinds of different stress carried into that pregnancy. Megan had a phenomenal home birth because we're weirdos like that. We love the home birth. Just kidding. That experience was absolutely phenomenal. Jen Nelson, Pittsburgh midwife, just a little plug for her. But and Mary Beth was a part of that team. Ellen Huffmeyer. I digress. But when we had that birth and we had our son, I already do this stuff. I do this for a living. I work with nutrition. I write nutrition scripts. I've done bodybuilding competitions. I've written them for people. So I know the ins and outs of health, right? Sometimes we learn new things based off of our own experiences. It's how we learn. That's honestly how we learn the best, is through our own mistakes or through our own failures. Now, we knew going into the birth, like, listen, we're breastfeeding this kid. We're going to avoid dairy. We're going to avoid gluten. We're going to avoid the typical inflammatory stuff. We don't eat that stuff anyways. But on the occasion, Megan would consume dairy, either on purpose or by accident. Usually it was on purpose. And quite honestly, I remember this, and my little sister Mandy and my brother-in-law Ryan probably remember this trip as well. But we did a trip down to Florida, and they bougied us out. They had like 15 pounds of delicious sushi, probably even more than 15 pounds. It was absolutely phenomenal. And my sister did a great job trying to tell them don't put dairy on it, et cetera, because she knew that we don't do dairy. Well, Megan had like a little sliver of like a cream cheese stick that was like either touching or rubbing up against one of the sushi rolls, breastfed our son that night, and our son was maniacal. And that was our breaking point. We're like, oh my gosh, like, we have to be that sensitive. We have to be that careful with what we're putting in our bodies, what she's putting in her body. Otherwise, our kid is going to express said symptoms, right? Now, our kids are weird, right? No antibiotics, no medications. So far, still in life, 3 years old, 1 year old, no medications, no earaches, no ear infections, no tubes, no removing tonsils or adenoids, none of that stuff. So we eat incredibly healthy. And people are like, well, how do you do that? How is it possible? It could be tough. It could be very overwhelming at first. But we really need to think of, well, why aren't you eating healthy? I'm going to pause there for a second, because think about that. Our kids learn from us, right? They learn from us. Like we did a workout the other night, and we're getting some weights and stuff delivered so we can build up our home gym. I'm going to do some workout videos and stuff for you guys too, which would be awesome. But Hoyt was running around like parkouring off of TRX straps. And even he was doing it this morning, running around with Sage going, ah. And so why do they do that? Well, we have the equipment there, but then Hoyt sees us use the TRX straps, or he'll see us use dumbbells. He has his own little dumbbells that he'll work out with. It's a monkey see, monkey do. Whenever it comes to diet, same thing. If you're telling your kid that your kid has to be healthy, but then you're sitting there pounding down, M&Ms and dairy, and, you're eating 15 pounds of pizza and gluten, and you're just like chugging gallons of milk at a time. Shouldn't have done those hand motions, but you're chugging gallons of milk at a time. And you're like, but you can't have any of this. Your kid's going to be like, what the heck? They're so smart. They can realize that incongruency. And parents will have like the little guilt hour, right? Like after you put your kids down, you're like, ooh, what can we eat? And that's not in front of the kids. Our kids typically are going to eat healthier than we do for the most part. Because if we look at like your baby journals and diets and all that stuff, it's like your kid needs 5 million servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And you're like, well, you can have all the fruits and vegetables, but I'm going to go eat a pizza or a bagel or some other form of like carby crap or a McDonald's hamburger, something of that nature, right? So when your kids are sitting there at their dinner table, they're like, hey, this is something weird with this. Mom and dad have giant smiles on their faces and they're eating garbage. At some point, your kid's going to get smart enough to be like, hey, I want some of that. And then what do? Do you say no? And if you say no, why? Think about that. If you tell your kid no, your kid can't have this food, why? And if your kid can't have that food, what makes you think that you should be having that food? So what do? Clear out the pantry, get the garbage out, and start eating more congruently. Because your kids will never eat healthy if you don't eat healthy as well. Very important distinction. So what do? Empty the pantry. Get rid of all the garbage, right? Fill it up with the good stuff. Show your kids how to eat. You want your kid to eat vegetables? You sure as shit better be eating vegetables yourself. You want your kids to eat fruit? You sure as shit should be eating fruit. You want them to eat certain protein sources or avoid egg, or if you want to be vegan or pescatarian or pure carnivore, whatever it is, how you eat is how your kid should eat. Okay? And we'll talk about this later, but you should never make 47 meals for your family for dinner or breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? What you make is what's going to be consumed. You're the one putting in the work. Everybody better eat it. If not, they're not eating anything that night. So this is how we start to set ourselves up for success with how we raise our kids. So we're going to talk about this. I have all my notes here. We're going to dive hard on this. All right. So what do we look for? Now, this is something that I've talked about for a very long time. I love to talk on this topic. I love to argue people on this topic because it is very argumentative. Because we're talking about the artificial shit. We're talking about the Splenda. We're talking about the aspartame. We're talking about sulfame K or ACE K. We're talking about these horrible ingredients that they're throwing into foods. All right. How do you know if you should avoid certain foods? Number one, first thing that you want to avoid, if it says sugar-free, avoid it. I don't give a shit. Don't even turn the label around. Go somewhere else. If it says sugar-free, avoid it. What if it says fat-free? Avoid it. Okay? This next one might be a little bit more argumentative. If it says gluten-free, avoid it. You're like, whoa. You say don't eat wheat. You say don't eat gluten. What am I supposed to eat then? Just because it's gluten-free does not mean it's healthier for you. Remember, they're trying to get it to taste like gluten. So they're going to throw a whole bunch of shit in there, slap a gluten-free label on it, and most people are not going to turn the label around. They're just going to accept it. Oh, it's gluten-free. Yes, it makes me feel good inside. Let's go. I can have my bread alternatives. Shouldn't have bread anyways. Processed shit, processed sugar, more carbs, spikes your glycemic index, your blood sugar, all of this stuff due to gluten-free. So again, just be cognizant of that. What research has been showing is that these artificial sweeteners actually do something where they increase your risk for metabolic syndrome. All right, metabolic syndrome, there's a whole bunch of different symptoms associated with that: high blood pressure, cholesterol, increased visceral fat, so on and so forth. There's a lot of symptoms that are associated with it. Increase your risk of heart disease, cancer, and pretty much every other disease known to man due to this artificial shit. Where do you find this stuff? Where do you find the artificials, right? Artificials are going to be found in supplementation. It's going to be found in drinks. It's going to be found in energy drinks. It's going to be found in teas. It's going to be found in pre-workouts. It's going to be found in protein. It's going to be found pretty much any supplemental whatever. The fake stuff is going to be in it because there was a fad that came out and they're like, oh my gosh, let's do a sucralose because we're competing, and so let's go sugar-free. And I was in there. I competed. I did bodybuilding, and I had Walden Farms syrup, the most disgusting freaking syrup that you will get to throw on some pancakes. And that was what we were told to do because it had no sugar. So it could fit my macros better, right? Which is where this whole if it fits your macro bull crap comes into play. It's such garbage. That mentality is such garbage. Sorry if that's what you abide by. Good luck on that. Now, if it fits your macros and you're eating healthy stuff, cool. That's awesome because, that's great. But if you're like, well, I'm just going to have 15 pounds of donuts, I'm going to hit my macros for the day. No, it's toxic. It's horrible for you. Not going to help you reach your goals. So anyways, know that it can increase your risk. Those fake things can increase your risk of metabolic syndrome. Basically death. Okay? Causes weight gain. You're like, oh, it's not going to cause any weight gain. It's zero sugar. It's going to have no weight gain. Yes, it does. Okay? The other thing that these artificial sweeteners do, which I have said till I'm blue in the face all day, every day, is it freaking destroys your gut bacteria. Destroys it. How many competitors, bodybuilders, figure, bikini, whatever, are eating all of this sugar-free crap and have IBS or IBD, or they develop ulcerative colitis, or they have no bowel movements in a day, all because they're killing their probiotics, their good bacteria, with the artificials, okay? So again, if it says zero sugar, Coke zero, no sugar, and stay away. Don't even turn it around. Put it back on the shelf, which you shouldn't be in the interior anyways. Put it back and get out of there so that way you don't succumb to this lie that these artificial sweeteners are good and safe for you. Okay, because they're not. I would rather you eat normal sugar, normal table sugar, good old-fashioned white sugar versus this stuff, right? Which says a lot. Now, obviously, I prefer you do like a xylitol or a erythritol or a stevia. If they're good sources, that's going to be better for you. But really, you shouldn't have all the sugary stuff anyways. So again, if we're talking about health, avoid it all. If you're like, well, what do I do? Go with a birch xylitol. Don't go corn-based on that. Go birch xylitol, stevia. So they're like erythritol. There's other blends and things. Monk fruit is another really good one that you can get too. It helps to sweeten things up. So if you do want to make like a low glycemic paleo type baked good or whatever, paleoautoimmune baked good, you can use those sweeteners that aren't going to spike your blood sugar and cause any type of insulin resistance. Again, not causing weight gain. All right. Here's the other thing. So if your kids are addicted to these things, right? Sports drinks, Powerades, Gatorade Zero, it's so good. No, it's not. Freaking killing your kid. And it's a testament to myself in this. Back in high school, right? Back in high school, we would be force-fed Gatorade. Gatorade's freaking disgusting. We'll get to the artificial colors and flavorings and stuff, like the artificial colorings, but every single halftime, they would try to force me to chug down Gatorade. And every single halftime, I still remember it at Davis Field in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Vandergrift, Pennsylvania. All right, I don't even know if the field's still there anymore. I would be throwing up while Coach Grimm was doing his speech, his halftime speech. I would just be in a toilet and just horrible. And I mean, I still remember it to this day. And it wasn't like a private stall. Like Davis Field is a raggedy field. Like the stall I was throwing up, and like as I'm vomiting, Coach Grimm's trying to talk, and I'm like rivaling. I'm a screamer when I vomit. Like I'm rivaling the pep talk. Like it's coming out. If I like it or not, it's coming out. Why? Stuff is toxic. It's terrible for you. Okay. The food colorings, the red dye, the yellow dye, the green, the blue, the whatever. If it says dyes on it or natural artificial coloring or coloring sweeteners, just avoid it. Avoid it. Avoid it. Should be clear. I still don't understand why they need to dye everything. Just freaking drink the liquid. If it's good for you, just drink the freaking liquid. Get rid of all that excess crap. But they evolved from the Gatorades to Powerade was another rival of them. And so now they're like, well, what do I do? How do I get good nutrients in? How do I replenish my electrolytes? There's electrolyte powders that are out there that are natural. You can get it from us on our eHealth store on our Instagram page. Just go buy it if you want to. Electrolyte powder. Or you can do Numa. Numa is Nooma. We sell those as well. But Numa is something that you could just buy them at Whole Foods. You can buy them probably even in like vitamin shops and GNCs now at this point because they got so big. It is a Gatorade alternative. It's not all the sugary shit that it used to be back in the day. Numa, okay, Numa is coconut water based with extra healthy stuff in there as well that tastes really good. It's a 1-to-1 swap. So again, if your kids are used to that, Their taste buds are used to those types of flavor profiles. Doritos, pop, all that garbage. Get rid of them, okay? 1-to-1 swap, Powerade and Gatorade, swap it for a Numa. If your kid's chugging pop, for God's sakes, stop it. Whether it's Coke Zero, like a 0-calorie or whatever, or if it's just a standard pop, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, whatever. I have no preferences on all that garbage. Swap on that. Zevia, Zevia. Again, I don't sell that one, but you can get that pretty much anywhere now. I know back in Pittsburgh, you can get that at Giant Eagle. Super easy. When you pour it, it will mess with your head because it is completely clear, free of any artificial crap in it. 1-to-1 switch. Allow your kids, okay, look, it doesn't taste the same. Allow your kids 2 weeks. If you still want to feed them that stuff, it's still too sweet for me, but if you want to feed them that stuff, give them 2 weeks and then see if they want to go back to their previous sodas or their Powerades. They won't be able to do it. They'll feel how disgusting they feel. They'll feel sick. Their belly will hurt. They might actually get sick from drinking that toxic crap. There was another study I'm struggling to find. I was trying to dive into it, but they were saying that sucralose actually mimics MS symptoms. So it actually has neurological damaging effects on the body. Now, whether they buried that study or not, I know for a fact that it's out there. I just cannot find it right now. This is like 2-3 years back. I remember that because I had patients with MS. I'm like, holy shit, get away from that stuff, the sucralose. And they saw resolution of symptoms just from cutting out sucralose from the diet. All right. So again, stop that stuff. Now, artificial colors and flavorings. We already kind of talked about that, but as a parent, again, if you're drinking Pepsi and you're telling your kid to drink Zevia, it's not going to work. None of this stuff is going to work. When we're talking about the artificial colorings, again, this is in our performance blends. These are in our pre-workouts. This is in our food products. This is in our syrups. It's in all of this stuff. Cut it out. It is linked to increased amounts of cancer in children. So you can have increased thyroid, adrenal, bladder, kidney, brain, all of the, no cancer is good, but if you're wanting to hedge your bets, maybe cut this stuff out. Maybe cut out the artificial crap and start eating whole, healthy, natural foods. All right. Are there different ways to color things? Yes, there is. There are natural food colorings. When we have a birthday party for Hoyt or Sage, there are natural food coloring or dye kits that you can use that don't have any of that garbage in it at all. So there are healthy alternatives to that. Whenever it comes to drinks, again, you shouldn't be drinking stuff that has this stuff or contains this stuff anyways if you want to be healthy. But in case you do, there are all like beetroot is used to color red. Turmeric can be used for yellow. There's all kale or broccoli can be used for like green. There's all kinds of different things that you can implement in or you'll see on packaging for colors. Annatto is another one that they'll use for coloring as well. Okay. All right, look for oils, right? And I'm not like, oh my gosh, avoid lard. No, I'm talking about like your plant-based oils, right? So your corn oil, your vegetable oil, which is disgusting, canola oil, which is now nicknamed rapeseed oil. They kind of go back and forth on labels. And again, soybean oil, those types of things. Palm oil is another one. Avoid at all costs. They're showing massive inflammatory impact on the body. This is another one on healthier products, vegan, plant-based, etc., because it's a plant-based oil. They're putting these things into ingredients labels, which is causing massive inflammation that's sweeping the freaking nation right now. This will decrease your brain function. Like you cut these things out, you will notice that you will be mentally acute. You will have a sharper memory. You will just try it for everything. Try it for 2 weeks. Try all this stuff for 2 weeks and DM me and tell me how you feel doing it. You might have some detox die-off symptoms and some cravings. And again, if you have withdrawal symptoms from the food that you were eating, then you were consuming chemicals. You were consuming drugs, basically. All right. Drugs were addictive. Sucralose is addictive. Some of these chemicals are addictive. If you go through withdrawal, know that you are a slave to the food or drink that you are consuming. So go through those detox symptoms and move into the healthier paradigm. Okay. If you're like, I don't know what to do, again, perimeter shop and you'll be safe for the most part. Okay. Depending on what grocery store you're in. But for now, you should be safe. All right. Now, wheat, we talked about the gluten-free, talked about how I hate wheat. I hate wheat. If you're like, hey, I grew up as a wheat farmer and I always ate wheat. My family always ate wheat. I'm sorry. I don't care. Wheat is horrible for you. gluten is going to cause you to destroy your gut. It's going to lead to leaky gut. It increases a product called zonulin that gets released from the gut. And it basically says like, oh, cool. Let anything you want through the gaps in my intestines will just circulate through the bloodstream. Avoid gluten. Gluten is also a huge trigger with infertility as well. Huge trigger for people being completely exhausted. It can damage the thyroid, cause Hashimoto's. All of these things can happen just from gluten. Avoid it, avoid it, avoid it. I don't care if it's wheat. I don't care if it's bleached wheat. I don't care if it's 12-grain bread. I don't give a shit. Avoid it. It's not good for you. Okay? Again, don't replace it with something even shittier or equal level of shit. Sorry, I'm swearing so much, but I hate wheat so much. I don't even think this stuff should even be on the market anymore. That's how much I despise this stuff. Just cut it out. Just freaking cut it out. Okay? All right. What else? Bisphenol A or BPA. It's something that you can see on labels. Typically, it's going to be in your plastics, right? So if you have water bottles, etc., if you're heating things up in plastic, please don't do that. Even if it's BPA free, supposedly BPA free, even if your water bottles are. If you're in Arizona, don't leave it in your car. It'll absorb and leach all that crap into your food. Same thing in a microwave. If you're going to use a microwave, use a glass bowl, or use a convection oven, or use an oven, or heat it up in a pan with a skillet that's non-toxic, okay, non-Teflon based pan. High fructose corn syrup, cocaine for kids. It's literally a refined version of corn syrup. So what it's going to do is it triggers ADD, ADHD in kids. It can be an excitotoxic, it can damage the brain. Again, your kid's brain, your brain. These are all things we have to avoid at all costs. If you see high fructose corn syrup in anything, avoid it. Where can you find it? Again, your soft drinks, your sodas, your pops, a high fructose corn syrup. And again, high fructose corn syrup and brown rice syrup. Brown rice syrup is healthier, but it's still a condensed type of sugar. Avoid that as well. But for right now, we're just talking about the high fructose corn syrup. Please, please, please avoid that. If your kids are drinking that, you will thank yourself for pulling this stuff out of their diet, because they will be less maniacal and they will be a little bit more tame due to getting away from that type of drug. It makes things unbelievably addictive. Okay? Unbelievably addictive. Avoid it. Okay? It's like cocaine for kids. If I remember correctly, they actually did a study and said high fructose corn syrup is just as addicting as cocaine. Like no, that's not good. Great business model. Create repeat consumers because you can't get enough of this stuff. It's like chasing a dragon over here. But make sure that you're not falling victim to high fructose corn syrup. Very important, vitally important. Avoid at all costs. Okay? Sodium nitrites and nitrates. What are these? We know for wine drinkers have some of these things in their ingredients. Avoid them. The sulfites, right? Sulfates. Avoid these things, okay? They're not good for your body. Where can you find them? Your deli meats, okay? If you're like, hey, I just need to just rip a sandwich apart and boom, get this good to go, and I just need some chipped ham or blah, 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 or some regular ham or turkey or chicken breast shaved off, and so that way I can make a sandwich, which you shouldn't do. That's just what I need to do, right? Parents, moms, trust me, I get it. Dads, I get it. You want to rush and you want to get food on a table. You want to make sure your kid eats something for lunch. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do. You can still get lunch meat. You can still get deli meat if you want to. Just make sure it doesn't have any of the nitrites or nitrates in it. And then you don't need the bread. Do a little roll up in there and put that in your kid's lunchbox so that way they can eat it like fruit by the foot or something like that. Like when we were kids, just eat that. Keto style, bunless. We don't need any bread at all, okay? No breads. Just throw that into the lunchbox, okay? Palm oil is another one, okay? Palm oil is another one that's not very good for your body. Huge think about how it's actually processed and how they get the palm oil. Just avoid that if that's something like it's organic or it's whatever. It's still not a good oil. It's still inflammatory to the body. The other thing I wanted to throw out there too, and go back to the nitrites and nitrates, again, your lunch meats, sausages are another big one. Bacon is another one as well. You'll see no nitrates or whatever on your bacon wrapping. Well, that's good to have it not be on there. But what does it do? So it's actually been found to cause an increase in cancer and then that metabolic syndrome again. These things can always be found, again, causing more harm to the body than good. How any of our food is allowed to do this and it's still on the market it's beyond me. Beyond me. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have organic food. We would just have food. We would just have meat. We would just have vegetables. None of that inorganic farming would be allowed. It would be banned because all this shit is toxic. The glyphosate that's on these products, these pesticides that they're using. We had DDT back in the day. We were spraying DDT on kids. Like, DDT is good by me, or whatever that slogan was. And now, like, oof, the half-life of that is like 20 years or whatever. It basically it lives in the body for 20 years. It causes damage in the body. And now we're at glyphosate, which damages the gut and damages the brain, causes infertility, a whole host of different things. That's another thing. If you have berries, or if you have fruit, vegetables, etc., you have the clean 15 and the dirty dozen. But make sure that the dirty dozen you're getting organic. Otherwise, you're basically eating pesticide. Same with your coffee as well. If it's not organic, yes, pay a little bit more to not poison yourself. Okay, and even then, you should still use like an apple cider vinegar wash or something like that to get the rest of the gunk off of that, because it may have been raised organic, but when they get to the store, what do they spray on it to keep it alive? That's my crazy mind. That's what I think. All right. MSG, the flavor enhancer, Chinese food. Okay. Stuff is found in a lot of stuff as well. Monosodium glutamate. It is an excitotoxin that excites the brain cells so much that they explode. It kills your brain cells. Do not consume. Okay. Chinese food. There's different dressings and syrups that will also have, usually dressings will also have MSG in it. Don't go for the MSG. All right. So the short and sweet of it, right? How do we raise healthy kids? We raise healthy kids by being healthy people ourselves. Know what health is, but know how to eat properly. If you're wanting to start from square one, what do? Again, just as a recap here, empty out the pantry, fridge, cupboards, freezer, wherever you keep your snacks. If you've got a secret drawer somewhere or a secret compartment in your car, get that stuff out of your house. Be congruent. Do it yourself so that way your kids can see you doing this too. Now, moms, dads, if you're like, well, I don't want to cook 48 meals for my kids, your kids will eat what you eat. Your kids will eat what you eat. If your kid is like, I'm not eating that, well, congratulations, little Timmy. You're not eating tonight then. Good luck with that. And you're going to be screaming at night because you're hungry, your stomach's going to be growling, and you're not going to know what to do. It's your fault. Give them a couple days of starving them out a little bit. You can call CPS on me if you want to, but I would rather feed my kids healthy food than poison themselves. Right? Give it time. Your kid has an innate intelligence just like we do. It will tell your kid when to freaking eat and how long they can last. They can only last so long without food. Also, make sure that your kids don't have hidden stashes around the room. I know this is something that parents will come across and laugh because I've heard it, where kids will hide their candy bags somewhere in the room, whether it's under their mattress and melt all the chocolate, or in their closet, or under a pillow, or in a special drawer. Make sure you snag all that stuff so you're not like, yes, we're doing a great job, and you see Reese's peanut butter cup wrappers in a garbage can. You're like, where the hell's that coming from? Okay? Start yourself, clean yourself out, start eating healthy. Your kids will then also start to eat healthy. Give it as an experiment for about 2 weeks. Go all in on this stuff. You will feel the difference. You personally, as the adults, as the mom and dad, because I'm sure maybe kids are listening to this, teenagers, maybe, that'd be cool. But if we lead by example and we teach kids that we have strong food and we have weak food. Okay, I got this from a doctor, a really good friend of mine, Dr. Ryan Gunyon. He taught his kids this when I was working with him down in Houston. His kids would be like, hey, is that strong food or is that weak food? Or I'm going to eat this because this is strong food over here, right? For Hoyt, we call it super special power juice, or like strong food, or this will hurt your belly, or this will explode your brain. Like, I use these things for my kids because they need to be equipped with the knowledge. Am I brainwashing them? Maybe, but I'm brainwashing them with healthy facts. I'm helping them to be educated as little young ones to make proper health decisions so that I don't always have to be coming down on them, and I can trust them to make healthy choices. I can control everything that happens in our home. Megan and I, we can control that. We can control what food comes in, and we can control what our kids eat. The better we do in our household, the better we can do whenever it comes to the outside influences, whether it's going over to friends' houses or it's going to school. And you're like, well, what do I do with school lunches? Pack the kids lunch. Don't let them eat that garbage that somehow our tax dollars pay for. I still, to this day, I don't understand that process. We feed our kids shit in school, and then we yell at them for acting out in the second half of the day because we just fed them shit at lunchtime, or they're passing out because they had too much carbs, and their body's like, oh, I need to pass out. I had too much pizza, or in our school we had sweet treats and stuff. And of course, I consume that stuff, but I know better now. And I had my own health crises as I was growing up, as I was becoming an adult. So what I'm trying to do is have my son and my daughter learn from my mistakes and educate them on what it takes to be healthy. But again, as the leader, as Megan and I are the leaders in our family, it is up to us to live the life that we preach, to make sure that our son and our daughter sees we have fruit on the counter. Where Hoyt, it's almost to the point where Hoyt eats too much fruit. Like he's like, I just want a banana, and I want a pear, and I want an apple, and I want berries, and hey, Mom, can I please have some more fruits and vegetables? Like that's how our kids speak. Okay, why? Because we did an excessive job and a good job raising them on doing that. And I'm not saying that parents that are out there, like, I'm not saying that you're not doing a good job. We just knew better. We knew better because we had our own health crisis, and we're obsessed with this topic. Now, if you hear all this information, you're like, well, I'm still going to feed my kid this, or I'm still going to give them that. Well, you're doing the best you can then. But with great knowledge comes great responsibility. You should start implementing these strategies into your kids, because my hope, my prayers is that, again, we're not going to have these labels and stuff. Like, I wish I could run for president if it wasn't such a shit show. I would immediately start by completely overhauling the health system. Start with the kids. Teach the kids what health truly is. Teach them how to eat. Teach them how to exercise properly. Teach the parents how to be proper influences for their kids, because our kids are not seeing us as role models anymore. Our kids are worshiping false idols. They're worshiping people who are shitty human beings who beat their wives or consume drugs or say horrible things to people. And that's what they're idolizing. And that's why our kids are acting out. And that's why our kids are falling victim to this, because all of the marketing out there is designed to make our kids consume. It's designed to make us consume. That's what commercials are for. Consume this medication, consume this new beverage. Pepsi came out with a new blah, blah, blah. Or, there's a new hard seltzer, or whatever that is out there. Marketing, commercials is all designed to get us to consume. All right. So if we teach our kids how to see things through a filter of truth, then our kids can make the proper decisions whenever it comes to their health. And so I challenge you this year, whenever you hear this, try. If you need healthy alternatives, you're like, I don't know what to cook, DM me. I will set you up for free in our app. It's called the Well World app, that has diet options that you can use. And we can set you up on a diet plan. We'll give you recipes. We'll teach you what to cook, what the proper temperature for the oven is. We'll take all of the guesswork out for you. It's what we use for our patients. Okay? If you need help and you need assistance, you don't know where to turn, and perimeter shopping is too tough for you and too overwhelming, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Don't hesitate. I want to be able to help. I want to be able to help to make you healthy, and your kids healthy, and your grandkids healthy, and your great-grandkids healthy. That's what I am here to do. That's what I feel like I was put on this earth to do, is make as many people as healthy as humanly possible by way of healthy nutrition, taking care with proper testing, and living a proactive lifestyle. Now, if that's something that you're interested in, and again, you need help and you need support, then find me. Click down on the show notes. You can go ahead and find me on Instagram. And for those of you who appreciated this and you're like, hey, this is great information, I always wanted to figure out how to feed my kid, or like what to do or where to start, and you loved it, share this. Share this with your family. Share this with your husband, your wife, your in-laws, your parents. Share it with your grandparents. I don't care. Get the message out there, because this stuff needs to be heard, because somehow these chemicals are still legal to have in our freaking food sources. So the more educated we can be educated to persuade people with the power of the dollar. We don't put our money where the shit is. We don't pay Pepsi. We know all the diagrams of what Pepsi owns. We don't pay Coca-Cola. We don't pay Starbucks for their cancer-causing, pesticide-laden, mold-laden food or coffee. Okay? Start somewhere here. Start chipping away and try to make 2022, again, it's so cliche, but make it your healthiest year possible. Start doing this stuff. Some of you are working from home now, and maybe the husband or the wife is able to cook a dinner, and you're not both getting home at 6 o'clock and your kids are getting home at 7. You're like, I don't know what to do. Have something in mind. And on top of that, another great word of advice is always have what you're eating for dinner written down so that we always know. So if you become too busy and your spouse is like, hi, I can pick up the slack here, get them to cook. Now, if they're terrible and they burn everything, maybe don't let them cook the food, but start somewhere. And the less temptations that you have in the house, the better and the more successful you're going to be at becoming healthy. So again, how do we raise our kids like this? This is all they know. They know this stuff. They're not being brainwashed by television commercials to buy toys or to try a new Kool-Aid or whatever it is, okay? And it's not like, oh, well, like everything costs so much more. Go to Aldi. Go to Aldi's. Go to Trader Joe's. Some of these other cheaper stores. You can find gluten-free if you want to use the gluten-free bread. You can find organic for like next to nothing. You can find grass-fed steak, grass-fed beef. Feed your kids good stuff. My kids are obsessed with my smoker, with natural herbs and natural seasonings and stuff. My kids are obsessed with the chicken and the beef and the fish and all that stuff that I cook on there. Just get creative with that and throw some veggies on there, okay? Make half their plate. A little bit of fruit, a little bit of vegetables, takes up half a plate. Put that protein on there, a little bit of fat. Boom, you got yourself a good meal. Again, if you need support, you need some help, please reach out. Also, if you love this podcast, do me a favor. Please leave me a review. 5 stars would be amazing. Also, try to throw in a little written one in there as well. Let me know what you liked. And again, find me on Instagram. If you have a topic that you want me to talk about, then by all means, please reach out. This podcast is designed to help you to reach that next level whenever it comes to your health. If you're struggling with something personally, I will personally make a podcast for you. So that being said, thanks for tuning in today, guys and gals, and I'll talk to you next week.